Welcome to more Gran Turismo Sport Specialtatin, kind of. I haven't done a Specialtatin in a while, especially not a true Specialtatin in a while. I call a video Specialtatin, but it really just kind of turns into rants. Specialtatins of old, all the early GT Sport closed beta days, or GT6 days, whatever. Well, these ain't those days anymore. GT Sport ended up not exactly meeting mine and a lot of people's expectations. That's sort of from the last video, but one of the things I realized from the last video is that I've kind of become that guy who rants about GT Sport. I don't really care either way about that. If y'all like it, I'll continue doing it. If y'all don't, I'll try my best to do more just normal classic Specialtatin type videos, but this is the first sport mode race I've done in a long time. And this is what happened. This is one race before I started live streaming. Really, the only reason I live streamed is because I wanted to show live recovering from the stupidity that was this race. I was only planning on doing 1 or 2 races just for fun. I kind of forgot over the time I haven't done sport mode that sport mode isn't exactly fun. This race kind of starts out pretty good though, so let's get into it. This will be the kind of sort of normal classic Specialtatin part. But then it becomes a rant by the end. I'm not even going to hide that in the slightest. Beginning the race, I like this car. It's classic muscle car, so it suits my driving style. And it's Mopar, so it suits my... well, that's pretty much perfect. I like this track. It's a pretty looking track. It's a short version, so it's easy to learn. A lot of people are good here, I think. Till the very first turn of the race. I'm pretty much braking at the exact point first is braking. Like, look at how... that's pretty much even to how first is braking. And yet I get the holy snikes knocked out of me. Nobody got a penalty from that, but I get the SR down. Like, the driver that dive bombed did not get a penalty, but then yet I'm the one who gets hit, braking at a normal point, and I get the SR down. This is my very first race. And I know a general braking point for that turn. May have not been downright perfect, it may have been like a foot or two off either way, but I'm not that far off. And y'all may be thinking I'm racing way under my skill level, quote unquote, but I mean, I qualified in second. Granted, this was the first time I had qualify. I only had about 7 minutes or so before this race started to qualify, but still. I'm not really gaining on first either. This general race is B-class driver and sportsman separating, or at least what I am, but as less people race in GT Sport, those become more varied, so there's a lot of variation in this race. I think anyway from A driver rating to D driver rating and A sportsman separating to C sportsman separating, so I guess that means I'm doing technically good, but being on my ultra count, I've probably had the driver rating reset at least 4 or 5 times now, I think. And then, well, this is this race, and I said I got PT logic bad in this race, but for now it's actually going relatively good. Beyond that initial dive bomb that wasn't my fault whatsoever, but yet I still lost sportsman separating from, this has been a relatively clean and even race. There's not exactly anybody super close behind me, but that car's... I still have to somewhat think about it. If I mess up, that car will be there. But at this point, I don't really want to mess up because I need to catch the leader, so... as long as I focus on catching the leader and zone in, theoretically, I should be gaining time instead of losing time, especially now because I'm a bit in the OP draft. Like, I swear there I already gained like 2 or 3 feet just barely being in the draft at the very end of that straight. And now, because it closed up, because it slowed down quite a bit for that turn, so the distance becomes less. Now I'm fully in the draft, and now it's race again. Should the draft be this overpowered? Probably not. But was that a bit of a dive bomb? Probably to that driver's thinking. But again, draft is overpowered, so that was the first time I really had to brake around that turn counter with having to consider draft. So I was off a bit there, but it wasn't really intentional. But so far, we're both racing intentionally clean. From what I can tell, we're both doing fine. Hopefully that continues. I mean, I'm giving that driver plenty of room. I have a very slight run, but ultimately we're pretty much going to be even going into the turn. So it really depends on who brakes where. I'm going to brake fairly early because it's fairly early in the race, but let's see what the driver beside me does. Not beside me anymore. Well, that's good. I was honestly expecting a dive bomb given what I saw at the beginning of the race, but yeah, this driver's racing clean. Hallelujah. A driver racing clean in GT Sport and not getting a penalty for racing clean. More times than not, you race clean and you still get a penalty. So far, no one in this race has even gotten a penalty that I've seen. It's a miracle. But again, I already know how this race goes and ends, so it's about the point of the normal Specialtatin is ending. Not yet, though. Not yet. Let's enjoy the time while we have it. Look at that close racing. The car is right there close behind me, but does not make contact. Correct braking points for both of us. Hallelujah. It's literally about to end now. And then House had to draft his OP earlier. I mean, yeah, just look at that. Look at where that car was to start the straight. And insert your Jaws music here. I don't think I can do it in 2019 or I'm going to get copyrighted, but insert your own here. Yeah. And remember when I did essentially that move and didn't make contact? Yeah, that was a bit of contact there. And that driver technically passed during the yellow flag, too. So that's iffy. I mean, in my opinion, a one-car wreck, you should be allowed to pass, because theoretically, if it's a one-car crashing, it's the ghost, so it shouldn't matter, but I'm around anyway, cleanly. Or so I thought. Whatever, no harm, no foul. That didn't really hurt either of us all that much. That was pretty much unintentional both ways around. It needs a bit of analysis. This is the end of the Specialtatin. The best of the best drivers in the world can do this series of turns full throttle. I'm not the best of the best in the world. By the time this event ended, my qualifying time was like a 104.6, I think. At this point, it was like a 105.1. The best in the world ran like a 103 point, or the best in America's region ran a 0.7. I don't know what the best in the world did, but best in America's region did this turn full throttle. At my best, I'm about a second off that. At this point, I'm like a second and a half off that. So while yes, I do slow down slightly for this turn, I'm expecting the other driver to as well, because at this point we know we're not the best of the best in the world. Or we'd be in a higher split. We'd have better drivers fortune separating, couldn't we? I'm assuming this driver's going to slow down too, given that 99.99% of drivers do slow down a bit here. But instead, I get punted to 140. 140. Before I was at 112. 113, whatever. Get punted to 140. Now, you may be thinking that driver just forgot to brake, but I did. I didn't even really fully brake if I even just let off the throttle a bit. But no, the max amount of speed even the best of best drivers carry, and that general section is not even 120. And yet I'm going 140. Something doesn't add up there. And it's apparently not even lag. We both have good connections. I don't know how to explain this one, folks, but I know this is kind of the beginning of a lot of BS. I'll put it like that. Remember, that driver already dive bombed me in somewhat of a dirty fashion when I passed that driver clean before. Now that driver probably just thinks I just brake checked him, even though I didn't even use my brakes at all. Look, no brakes. Slow to throw very slightly. I used brakes to slow down from 140, but that's after the fact. The wall slowed me down quite a bit, though. I still get SR down, though. And that driver noses his way in front, and then is sweeping to block. Yeah, I don't think the going to 140 was that driver's fault, but I do think the ramming me might have been that driver's fault. Granted, it shouldn't have took my car over 120, but still, the ramming happened. The subsequent physics ball, or whatever you want to call it, after the ramming shouldn't have happened, but nonetheless, the ramming did. So, yeah, I'm going to race eye for an eye, especially in my ultra count. He knocked me a good 20 miles an hour faster, but I'm going to be nice and maybe just do a hit 2 or 3 miles an hour. Worth around this turn, because that driver already dive-bombed me through this turn before, so I don't feel too bad about it now, especially given the ramming that just occurred. If anything, I'm going to be about slightly nicer than this driver. But this driver does have good racing sense and realizes that I might be a bit mad now, because I think this driver is also a bit mad now. And breaks late into the turn to try to avoid the dive bomb. But I have a decent amount of dirty racing experience, and I know where to place my car to, even if I don't get the dive bomb the first time around, I can still get something the second time. The speed of my car, 37, 38, 40. Like, I don't even lose speed during this hit. And that driver goes bye-bye. I'll admit, I wasn't expecting that driver to completely spin out, but what I was sort of expecting is I was going to push it a bit farther in the sand. Now, I think in hindsight, I still don't know this for a fact, but I assume that driver probably had the rear right tire still in the sand at this point, so thus when I hit it, it spun out because of it, even though it was such a small hit compared to what that driver did to me. Whether it was intentional or not, I assume the ramming probably was intentional, but the up to 140 definitely was not. Yeah, that was a bit unintentional overkill, but the hit was intentional, I ain't gonna lie, because that driver was intentionally dive bombing me and then rammed me, so just me nudging it doesn't seem all that terrible. And you may be thinking that didn't end in something that looked like a nudge. I'll say this, I could hit a lot harder at this point. Look at how I'm steering my car. Yeah, usually I'm going full lock to the left at this point, but I could be turning to the right at this point too if I wanted to. Kind of supposed to be going full lock to the left, I'm only going about half, but I could be steering right at this point. I could, but I wasn't. But nonetheless, I still get a 4-second penalty. Or a 30-second penalty, the other clip was 4. 30-second penalty from that. Well, let's see what happened before. Another driver dive bombed me to begin the race, no penalty, but I lost SR when I had nothing to do with that. That wasn't my fault. The driver who I just quote-unquote wrecked, even though I wasn't even intentionally doing it, given how small of a hit that was. Dive bombed me, no penalty, and then rammed me, no penalty. And then I just barely nudged the driver, and I get a 3-second penalty. I mean, I'll admit that was an intentional nudge, but it was also a nudge. I could have wrecked that driver a lot harder there. Like, I could have easily, at this point, instead of turning left, I could have turned right, and look where my car is positioned. If I would have turned right now, I would have not just pushed that driver out some, I would have downright spun the driver too. I would have pit maneuvered him and pushed him into the sand. Instead, that sort of ended up like a pit maneuver, but I kind of have to think that's physics messing up again. With how small of a nudge that is, on a big muscle car like that, I really don't think it's going to completely spin around. Again, maybe it did have one tire in the sand, so that got it loose. But still, there's different than loose and completely spin out. While I'll admit that the nudge was intentional, the after effect was not. That's probably what that driver thought when ramming me, though. The ram was intentional, the after effect was not. But that driver still dive bombed me with the intention of getting around. I passed cleanly. That driver did not. So I don't feel bad about the hit that I made. I somewhat feel bad, I guess, about how it turned out. But it wasn't really my fault how it turned out. I did the hit like I've done a million times before, enough to just get the driver a bit loose so I can get around. Essentially to Dale Earnhardt Randall's cage, not trying to downright wreck him, just trying to get around. And that driver ended up in third. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to keep that driver in second because he raced clean for like the first half of the race, but whatever. Remember how I said I got PD logic though? The penalty was not the PD logic. The PD logic is the subsequent. Remember how I was B and B before? Like, here's proof. This dropped me from a B to a D. Like, look, there's C's and B's and such in the race. I was a low B sportsmanship rating that dropped me to a high D. And because of that, that drops my driver rating, even though I won the race. Drops my driver rating from a low B to a mid C, even though I won the race. In total, that race, I got dive bombed twice, ran once, and nudged another driver in retaliation once. I get wrecked 3 times. Every driver that was involved wrecking me got a positive SR rating by the end. I retaliate once in a smaller way than the initial 3 hits, and my SR goes down, and way down at that. Remember, at the beginning of the race, I lost SR when I was dive bombed. Mid-race, I lost SR when I was rammed. At the end of the race, and rightfully so, I lost SR retaliation from getting dive bombed and rammed. Would I have won that race without retaliating? Maybe. That driver went wide, so I could have gotten around at that point. But that driver would have been right behind me too, so could have attempted another dive bomb, or get by draft, or something like that. My initial intent with the final hit was get about a second and a half or so lead, so that way that driver's not really enough in a draft to compete. Instead of spinning the driver out, probably lost him 6 or 7 seconds. And a position. But that wasn't really my intent. Again, I could have wrecked him a lot harder. So ultimately, well, yes, I'm not exactly saying I should gain SR from that race. I really don't think I should lose 2 levels of it either. Granted, in total it took me like 6 races to recover from that. I did the races in the live stream, and then I did like 2 more later, and then I was ultimately back to a low B driver rating and low B sportsmanship rating, which is where I was before this race, but still, that's not exactly the point. The point is, why am I losing SR for being dirty in retaliation when the people who are initially dirty are gaining SR? If they give a fair amount of SR loss or gain to each of the drivers, then I wouldn't complain for losing sportsmanship rating, because it's not like I was the cleanest in the world. I'm not going to deny that. I'm a dirty racer at heart. I race after an eye. Not going to deny that. But when other drivers are also racing dirty, but also getting a lot less of a penalty, that's what makes me a bit mad. I mean, just look at how I created my driver to look. It's not like I'm taking this seriously. I don't really care about the overall driver and sportsmanship rating what I have. But what I do care is about the other people getting away with stuff that I simply can't when we're doing the same stuff. If it's fair, I don't care how strict it is. But when it's not fair, whether it's strict or lenient, then I do care. I'd much rather have a fair system that's strict than an unfair system that's lenient. I don't care if it's strict or not, if it's equal. In theory, retaliation probably shouldn't be as big of SR loss as the initial hit, because it's human nature to react to things. It's literally a reaction is reflex. It's a thing. But it definitely shouldn't be more, I'll put it that way. Especially for a lot less of a hit than I did. If I would have known I would have went down this much SR, I probably would have hit a lot harder. I'll put it that way. But I didn't. I didn't know I was going to get rammed to 140 miles an hour. I didn't know I was going to get dive bombed twice either. But it happened. Well, it doesn't need to happen after the race is PD penalizing me, and not the others. So at the beginning, that Specialtatin's a decent yeehaw. By the end, not so much.